Hey ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Jordan.
Hooty hoo!
No Dom this week. He's doing adult stuff, so unfortunately I can't be on the video game podcast. Yeah, so it's a two-man show once again. Also, Ian isn't with us this week. He's going to be back next week. Had to reschedule, so look out next week when he's on. Yeah, so let's just hop right into what we've been playing. Jordan, obviously I haven't talked to you for a couple of weeks. I only really had... I wouldn't say I didn't have a lot of time, but I just chose to use my time on Monster Hunter World. So I haven't really gotten back to Celeste or Wolfenstein yet, which is a shame, but I'll talk about now why I'm playing Monster Hunter World so much. I'm kind of ashamed because I still haven't watched Cloverfield Paradox yet, which I know people have mixed opinions on, whatever. I still want to watch it because I love the Cloverfield movies. Haven't gotten to that yet. Haven't watched Altered Carbon yet, which sucks. And there's another movie that came out on Netflix. I don't know if you've heard of it, Jordan. It's getting some buzz, The Ritual.
Oh, God. I'm so glad you mentioned The Ritual, Jared. I watched it, not on Netflix. I just watched it in these past couple weeks, and I love The Ritual.
Awesome. I've heard people talking about it, and they're like, it's something you definitely want to check out. It's not for everybody, but it's a very interesting movie. So I have that on my docket as well.
Dig. I think
awesome.
We have similar taste in horror movies, and I think you'll dig. I'm not gonna,
awesome.
I don't want to say anything about it. I just want to talk to you about it once you've watched it, but I love The Ritual.
Awesome. So Monster Hunter World, I talked about last week with Dom that I'm really enjoying my time with this game. I'm loving the grind. I'm loving the story currently, and obviously we'll have an update from you as far as if you've played any more of it since when we first talked about it. I'm about 35 hours in now. I think I'm Hunter Rake 10 or 11. I've just finished the quest in the Rotten Vale, like that little quest line with the lady you meet down there. I don't want to spoil it for anybody if you haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, I'm in the loop of, getting gear and getting better stuff. I've heard some hearsay of like, don't upgrade your armor before Hunter Rank 13, because apparently after you hit Hunter Rank 13, the baseline armor at Hunter Rank 13 is better than anything below that. So it's kind of like you're wasting time. It's kind of like, it's not a huge detriment to the game. Like, you're not going to be worse off for upgrading stuff early, but it's kind of like the A-line track, right? Of like, if you know that beforehand, then you feel better about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of that one of those things. Yeah, so I'm not really upgrading any armor, but I am, with my OCD nature, I'm making sure to build the armor sets of each animal. Or monster. I'm not necessarily upgrading them. But man, these environments, especially the Coral Highlands, so beautiful. I don't know if you've gone there yet, Jordan, but man, it is a beautiful landscape. The ecosystems are as intriguing as ever. The different monsters and animals and smaller little weird creatures are really cool. I had the itch. You get trophies here and there, right? You wouldn't say you're like a dedicated trophy hunter, but you like to dabble in it, right?
Yeah.
So I was playing Monster Hunter, and I'm like, I remember there was achievements for rare creatures, and so I looked up some YouTube tutorials on how to get them because they're rare spawns. Some of them spawn on the backs of some of the herbivores, and one of them is a rare fish spawn in a specific area in the Rotten Vale, I think. And I was just like, you know what? I'm at the point where I just want to hunt some of these achievements and get these rare critters. And the cool thing is you can display them in your own room, right? When you catch these animals, you can display them. So I went around and I got those achievements, and it was fun. People were saying that for one of them, it could take you up to an hour to get them, just on like repeating, going back to Astera, going out and trying to hunt for it. I finished all three within 40 minutes, but I had a pretty good loop of like, go here, check here, go there, go there, go there, go back to Astera. So I had a nice little loop of trying to look for them, and it was fun. I did it while I was listening to a podcast. Yeah, I'm enjoying the game. I'm at the point now where I'm brave enough in my Monster Hunter skills to branch out to using the weapons outside of the training area, like the harder weapons, like the switch axe and the charge blade and stuff like that. My mainstay is the insect glaive. I just love the aerial maneuverability of it, like being able to bounce on the top of a creature and move back and forth. Once you get the glider mantle, it definitely helps, because the glider you've gotten the mantles, right, Jordan? Or at least the beginning one, the ghillie mantle.
I don't know that I have.
Okay, so the mantles are these things that you equip in your item bar that put a cloak on you, and they have different properties. So the ghillie mantle is a ghillie suit. hides you from creatures. You can sneak up on creatures. It's very effective, especially for the smaller creatures that tend to scatter when you walk near. And it's very effective for the rare creatures as well that I talked about hunting. The glider mantle, which is the second one you unlock, and I think there's a third one, but I haven't unlocked that one yet. The glider mantle, what it allows you to do is when you jump through areas, it can catch the wind, so you can go farther through the air. But the more important thing is that, especially in a working relationship with the insect glaive, where I'm already in the air, it gives you a boost to your chance of mounting the creature. So it's like a very good synergy there between me being in the air, trying to mount the creature, and giving me an item that boosts my probability of doing so. So those two things work really well, especially with some of the creatures in the Coral Highlands, where a couple of them have a tendency to be more air-based, and there's different ways you can handle that. There's, like, I think, things you can shoot at them to kind of ground them, but the way I handle it is I just go in the air with them and then bring them down. But yeah, it's pretty... I can go deep into it, but I kind of just want to hear from you, because I assume we're going to talk to Ian, too, about Monster Hunter next week when he's on. If you've played it or what you have played. Like I said, I didn't really consume anything outside of Monster Hunter World, unfortunately. But yeah, what about you?
So, actually didn't play any Monster Hunter.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Really. I have a love for all different kinds of entertainment, and usually I am, bouncing back and forth between a little bit of everything, and am pretty well balanced with it. But sometimes I just go all in on one thing, or just kind of pull away from something entirely, and that's kind of how I've been with games for the past couple weeks. Just haven't had the itch necessarily. And another thing, specifically with Monster Hunter, the whole, and this wouldn't affect you at all, but the whole Horizon Zero Dawn event, the fact that it was timed and that you had to finish it by February 8th for the Palico set, and then they're going to do the actual Aloy skin later, I guess. But it just, it's another one of those things that I was talking about with Monster Hunter last time, that there's just some obtuse stuff that I'm not too fond of, and that specifically kind of just, in a way, got under my skin to where I was like, I'm just not feeling this. It kind of just annoyed me that was the case, and then, kind of, just for the moment at least, put me off of that game. Obviously, I'm going to return to it. It's certainly not something to get so upset over that I stopped playing the game, but I was it's a weird deal for a game that's not exclusive. Like, it's really just the timing thing. Like, I would be cool if you had like a Master Chief skin or some random shit like that, but it's like, just the fact that you're making me do this within a certain time. I can understand maybe they wanted people to pick the game up sooner so that they could get that, even though I don't necessarily think that would work or matter. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it was exclusive, it would make more sense. There's a better argument for me, I think, that like that's why it would be timed, is because it is a console exclusive, and they want you to get a copy of it because PlayStation, in essence, would pay for the exclusivity, so they want them to sell X amount of copies. So the way you do that, especially for opening weekend, is to have a timed event where you make people feel the need to get in as early as possible. Because it's not exclusive, it's weird that you would have an exclusive piece of DLC or gear, but then you also make it timed. It's like double exclusive to the platform and then also the time period. Very weird. Yeah, very weird. I just wasn't really feeling it, and then the fact that I wasn't necessarily dying in to play games mood. So I was just like, whatever. But I'll definitely get back to it, like I said. So, but anyways, stuff that I watched. Well, I should say I've read a couple comics, got caught up with Paper Girls and Snot Girl, both comics that I know I've recommended before, but would still strongly recommend. Really enjoying both of those. They're both on my to-read list. I've had those for quite a while. Yeah. Well, the good thing about comics that I actually really enjoy, other than DC, some of their main series are twice a month, but for the most part, comics are once a month, right? And so you could literally miss an entire year of a series, and it would be 12 issues plus maybe a special in there, so like 13 probably at the very most, and you can finish that in less than 2 hours easily, and still enjoy it. You're not like blazing through them at that point. Just just plays 420 what up. But for real, I mean, you can literally miss an entire year of comics and get caught up real quick, so it it's not anything. I never feel rushed. It's like, oh, I'm this, 4 months of Paper Girls. Well, and they're not even once a month necessarily. So it's like I just, couple issues, few minutes, I'm back in the game. So it's nice and leisurely in that sense, I guess. Besides that, let's see. Yeah, watched The Ritual. Last night I watched Lady Bird.
On my watch list. A bit. Awesome.
Yeah. I did not expect it to be so funny. I will say, I didn't expect it to be anything because I think the only thing I knew about it was that it was starring Saoirse Ronan and that she was, playing an American character. But other than that, I didn't know anything about it, and surprisingly funny. It was very funny. I laughed a lot. So, well done movie. Enjoyed that. What else? I've been rewatching some of the MCU movies, getting ready for Infinity War. I didn't feel like going through the entire thing, but I chose to do the Avengers and Captain America 2 and 3. So I'm doing them in order of release. So I watched Avengers first, then Winter Soldier I watched yesterday, and then I'll watch Ultron, and then Civil War. So yeah, those movies hold up super well, Avengers and Winter Soldier, and probably enjoyed them even more than I did the first time. And I just have, I think not that I didn't already appreciate the action a lot in those movies, but specifically now I just have, and especially the Captain America movies, like I have such an appreciation for the choreography of the action, like the work that is obviously put into those scenes and how well done they are and how smooth a lot of that stuff is. I know they have a big budget and a lot of great CG effects, but just the hand-to-hand combat in certain situations is really well done, and the action throughout the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is really well done. So I really appreciate that about them.
Well, the real quick, the action scene at the beginning of Winter Soldier is the Navy ship, right? I don't know if it's a Navy ship, but it's on a ship, right?
Dude,
with George St. Pierre
it is straight up. I don't know if you've seen the photoshops of Chris Evans as Solid Snake since they gave him a beard for Infinity War. It looks really good. It's actually my computer background right now.
Cool.
And that scene is basically the opening scene from Metal Gear Solid 2, where you're Solid Snake infiltrating a ship. Quite like that one, actually. And so like... it was so cool, the stealth, and lots of great hand-to-hand combat. So man, I would say Iron Man is certainly my favorite Marvel character, and especially in the MCU. Like, I just love the way Iron Man is portrayed, and the sound effects, and the way his voice sounds coming through the mask or the helmet. And the AC/DC when he's coming through, I love all that. But Captain America is a very close second, because there is a lot to love about Cap in the MCU. So very cool stuff there as well.
Nice.
And then maybe just a couple quick shout outs here. I'd like to shout out an anime called Kokoku. Kokoku is it's this anime about this family that has their grandfather teaches them how to stop time. And what ends up happening is they actually stop time and go into what they call stasis at the exact same moment that these gangsters are going into this organized crime mob. It goes into stasis. And so if you're in stasis at the same moment, then you can interact with those other people. So they're basically, there's an artifact that allows them to go into this stasis, and it's in two pieces, and of course the family has one and the gangsters have the other. So really interesting, like, crime drama with the time travel aspect to it.
Sounds like Quantum Break, which is dope.
yeah, definitely some Quantum Break vibes there for sure. You know how much I love Quantum Break, so yeah. There's that. There's Grand Crest Senki that I've been watching, which is just really great fantasy anime. There is, of course, Ancient Magus Bride is still going. That's still great. Shit, what was the one I was trying to shout out? Oh, Darling in the Franxx. So Darling in the Franxx is the latest from Studio Trigger, and it's actually a co-production with A1, which is also a really great anime studio over in Japan. And this is, you know, giant mech robots in a sci-fi world, but it's got a lot of you know, those in-universe rules that we were kind of joking about before the show, Jared. It's got its own thing going on, its own lore that you're slowly learning as they go through, and lots of cool stuff. You got some Dune influence in there. You've certainly got some Evangelion influence in there, and a whole lot of other stuff. Plus, Studio Trigger just brings their own style and sauce to the table that is always clearly recognizable and uniquely their own. So really enjoying that. But yeah, a few quick anime shout outs, Rex, whatever.
Yeah, it's nice. I wish I could watch more anime. I wish I could watch more things in general. I think I need to focus on all of the movies I have on my watch list and stuff, and shows. I'm just very bad at watching things. It's just like a personal problem with me, you know what I mean?
Do you have trouble sitting still and focusing, or enjoying yourself while you're sitting still, or?
It's not even that I don't have trouble sitting still, because every time I watch movies I enjoy it, and like I'm fine with it. I for me it's just like, I think it's like I actively like to be doing something, but on the opposite end of that, I don't like to be doing anything if I'm watching a movie or a TV show, because I like to solely focus on that. I can't be the person, and I've tried of stuff in the background or like watching it passively. Like, I personally just can't do that. I'll even pause a movie if somebody like comes in and asks me a question or interrupts me. I'm like, I don't know how people can do that stuff. So it's like I'm solely committed to whatever I'm intaking, and I think it's hard for me to justify a specific amount of time for a thing. I'm getting better at it, but like I do love the theater experience, even though I don't really like. I'm not a extrovert by any means, but I do love the theater experience. It's a very weird relationship I have with TV shows and movies. Like, I loved intaking them. It's just I'm very bad at doing it consistently, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Right. So 2 quick things on that. One, when I was a kid, and do you remember how, like, on old AV inputs on your TV, you'd have to go to, like, channel 3 specifically?
Yeah.
So I would always, whenever I was, like, you know, if I was going to go play a video game and I'm changing from, you know, Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever, and I'm like, I'd have this weird FOMO, this weird fear of missing out, where it's like, if I, you know, stop watching TV right now and go play my video game, then, like, what if something cool comes on? You know, what if a Dragon Ball Z is coming on next or something? Now, of course, that's not as much of an issue, because, especially for me, all my stuff is digital, and so I watch it literally
it's on demand.
I want. Exactly. So I don't ever have to worry about that. But even still, it's like, if I turn my video game console on, then what about these episodes of this you know, The Path or whatever's on currently? Shout out to The Path. Where I'm just like, maybe I just kind of want to watch this, and then it's like, but what about the video games? You know, so I still feel that, and I get it's, you know, you just gotta kind of go with the flow. If you're feeling games, go with games, and if you're feeling a movie, fucking throw a movie on.
And the funny thing is, it's hard for me to justify an hour and a half for a movie, even though I know the movie's fantastic. Like, because I don't watch as many movies, I keep a very short list of things I need to watch, and I only watch the things that are I already have a love for it or an interest for, or that are highly critically acclaimed, right? One of those two things. Or like if it's a sci-fi movie, I have automatic interest in it, and then I'll see, I'll look into it. But it's funny because I'll be here and I'll be on my computer, and I'm like, let me dedicate an hour and a half to Lady Bird, right? And I'm like, that's a long time. But then I'll sit here and I'll watch like 6 or 7 YouTube videos that are an hour and a half long. So it's like,
sometimes I honestly think it's like, you get into your own head, and it's like, just sometimes when I'm just trying to figure out what to do next, or like what do I decide? Do I want to play games? Do I want to read? Do I want to watch something? It's like, just fucking double click that entry on your playlist and fucking roll with it. And if you just like click it and don't let yourself outthink your own brain and just sit back and watch, and then it's like, damn, I'm really enjoying this, and all I had to do was fucking press play, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I have this weird thing too where I macromanage hours, where I'm like, I only have X amount of hours to do things today. Do I really want to spend 1/10 of that doing this? When it's, I'm very OCD with that stuff, so it's like, it's not crippling OCD, but yeah, it's bothersome.
The other thing was actually kind of combined with that, where it's like, I do kind of like compartmentalize based on like, this is stuff that I actively watch, this is stuff that I passively watch.
Yeah.
And so like movies, obviously I'm going to sit there and actively watch that. I'm not, like you said, if someone comes in, I got to pause it. I'm not going to just like talk over the dialogue or
let the movie keep going.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't do that. But then there's other stuff that I just passively watch. So like Naruto or One Piece, those are 500 plus episodes for both of those. It's like, I'm going to have that on passively. I'm going to put it on my second screen. I'm going to have it on the side screen. Like, I'm going to just, go through Monster Hunter World and farm stuff or whatever. And so I've kind of like carved out, there's times for each of them. And so that way, everything kind of balances out in the end. And I'm not so much like, it makes the deciding easier, because then you're not like pulled in as many directions usually.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, is I don't really watch any shows that have that many episodes where it justifies, like, there's a lot of filler here, so it's okay to watch it passively. So when I do watch TV shows or movies, I'm very involved in it. So the only thing I really do passively is YouTube videos, and those are a lot more digestible and smaller. So when I'm playing something, I digest that, or podcast. It's a very difficult relationship. I'm working. I know it's not even an issue, because it's like, intake whatever entertainment you want, but as much as I know I love movies and TV, I see it as a personal problem, because I'm like, no, dude, get better at it, because you love movies and TV. You just aren't good at watching enough of it, for what I want to watch anyways. That being said, let's hop into the news. One news story I didn't add, but I wanted to just state it real quick, because it's a Jordan story like hell. I mean, it's a Jared story too. I haven't finished The Witcher 3, but I love CD Projekt Red. They announced that they're going to be at E3 this year. So
yes.
It's Cyberpunk, baby. If they show up at the Xbox show and it's like, we have a brand new update to Gwent, I'm gonna be so heartbroken.
Nah, it's I gotta admit, they're in a weird spot with Cyberpunk, because they revealed it multiple years before The Witcher 3 came out. With the trailer. And so now there's just this trailer. Every time somebody has a YouTube video talking about Cyberpunk news, they're just looping this trailer that I've seen 500 fucking times, and it's gorgeous. It's an like awesome
5
trailer.
Years ago.
It's such a great trailer, but it's like, you guys put that out way too quick, and there hasn't been shit all since then. So it's like, please, you got to get this, you got to be careful and smart and calculating with the way that you are endorsing or marketing this game from here on out. So yeah, they got a thin sheet of ice to be walking on with this one moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I could definitely see it pop up on Sony stage, don't get me wrong, but because of the relationship we've seen at E3 with them, with like Gwent and stuff, I would assume that we're probably going to see this on Xbox's stage, but I'm not like, I would say I'm like probably 70-30 Xbox to PlayStation, but I could easily see it pop up on Sony stage. It wouldn't be a surprise or a shock or anything.
I don't give a fuck what stage you're on. Just show me what this goddamn game is. Like, we know nothing.
So let's hop into the stories here. Speaking of Sony, this was officially leaked first by Laura Kate Dale, who's a notorious... she's most notably known for her Nintendo leaks, but she wrote up a piece on Kotaku on their UK page about...
Real quick, I have a question, Jared.
Okay.
So formerly she was just a leaker, like showing up on Reddit and shit, right?
Yeah.
And then now she has a job at Kotaku?
I guess. I didn't even know she got hired there. Yeah.
That's what, and I've been hearing people talk about, like, oh yeah, like, this journalist over at Kotaku, Laura Kate Dale. I'm like, isn't that the chick that was like leaking Switch reports and stuff about Mario Odyssey coming out in 2017? So yeah, it was,
well, the crazy thing is,
me around there for a sec. She
got hired. Emily Rogers, who's another notorious leaker, got hired at a game company to do PR and marketing or something. So it's pretty funny. They're like, yeah, the person that knows how to get information, let's make sure she keeps our information private. And then Shinobi recently joined a studio too. So
You're
it's like all these
kidding
people.
Me.
Yeah, all these people are getting jobs.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Topsy-turvy.
Anyways, though, this news story that she wrote about was that the Spyro Trilogy Remaster is coming to PS4 this year. According to multiple sources familiar with the project, Activision is currently working on a Spyro the Dragon Trilogy Remaster, which will be announced in March 2018 and released in Q3 of 2018. The trilogy remaster will much like this highly successful Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy feature new assets, cinematics, yada yada yada. It also states that it's going to have a 1-year exclusivity deal, which is interesting because if that is the case, I wonder what the whole deal is with Crash Bandicoot. Like, I wonder if they can't even mention that it's coming to Xbox until that exclusivity window's out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is awesome because, like I've already stated, I've kind of like locked down and kind of guaranteed that I'm going to get a PS4, and it's like I'm like 95% sure that I will. Obviously, stuff can happen in life, and I won't have expendable income to do so. But if everything is fine, I definitely want to get a PS4 this year, and definitely before Spider-Man. So if you're telling me that I could get Spider-Man and a Spyro Trilogy Remaster, which is like, I love Crash Bandicoot, but like...
Not Infamous Second Son, not Horizon Zero Dawn. The thing that sells Jared on PlayStation 4 is fucking Spyro remade.
Well, Spider-Man, and then this is icing on the cake. I actually, to be quite honest with you, I dabbled in possibly buying a PS4 last year when the Crash Trilogy came out. And it's not that I don't love the exclusives that PlayStation has. Like, they have Bloodborne, and they have Horizon, and they have a lot of games I'm super interested in. Even the Shadow of the Colossus remake. But nothing is more powerful than nostalgia, man. Really, when it comes down to it. Like, for me, seeing and hearing about this, like, Spyro Trilogy Remasters, like, this is, like, one of my first video games playing on a PlayStation, period. Like, obviously, I played the Marios and stuff, but this was the first game that was, like... I don't know how to explain it. It was my game. Like, I had my own console. This was my
jam.
This wasn't like my dad telling me about a game he played. This isn't with my cousin, my mom. Like, this wasn't something that they knew that they taught me or showed me. This was, that game looks cool. I want to play Spyro, right? And I played it with my sister too, which there's like a bonding thing there, and Crash as well. And like, it's how would I say this? It's like so ingrained in my childhood, like Pokemon is, that like seeing this kind of warms my heart, you know. And as dumb as it is on the surface of like, you're finally getting a PS4 because of Spider-Man, which is cool, and Spyro, it's like, hell yeah, dude. It's my childhood. The Q3 thing completely makes sense. It's the 20th anniversary of Spyro this year. It came out in '98, which is the 20th anniversary of Pokemon Red and Blue releasing in the States, which we talked about last week, of there possibly being like a remake on Switch, which would be pretty dope, in place of like a new Pokemon game. But yeah, in terms of this being 1-year exclusive, I mean, that being on the other side of that, of like, you know, when Tomb Raider was exclusive, it's like a year isn't so long for me to have to wait. Of like, yeah, I can wait a year to play this because this isn't going to win GOTY, you know what I mean? Right. But I'm like, this is enough little extra sprinkles on it to where, like, I was 95% on getting a PS4 before Spider-Man. Now I'm like 98% if this ends up coming true, you know? And props to Activision for, you know, they're known for the Call of Duties and they own Blizzard and stuff and making an asinine amount of money. They never really had to do these things. Though Crash was a success, they didn't really have to. There was nothing in the cards that said this would be a success, you know? And I think it's really cool that they're doing it. Now, I know you really hope that we get that Crash X Combat Racing, or Jack X Combat Racing, or whatever it is. Jack X, not Crash X, sorry. Yeah, this is cool. I'm super excited. I'm glad to see a lot of these remasters coming. When the new generation first came out, people were like, can we get new games and not just remasters? But yeah, I'm super down with it. Do you have any attachment to Spyro at all? Does this excite you?
Oh, yeah.
At all?
I love Spyro. I think the original PlayStation 1 game, I've got some fond memories of going down to my cousin's house in Georgia and always, you know, asking him to play his PS1 to hit up that Spyro, or like I'd wake up early before anyone else got up and just play some fucking Spyro, man. Like, love that shit. So and he's a purple dragon. I mean, what is not to like? You know what I'm saying? So one other thing I want to say though, all of a fucking sudden, Jared, you know, I look around the games industry and everybody is just absolutely befuddled for no fucking reason. Is it a remake? Is it a remaster? I'll give you a quick explanation.
They're pretty easy
fucking easy to figure it out. If they're tightening up assets and they're just making them crisper and upping the resolution, that is a remaster. You know, if they're making the audio crisper, shit like that, you got a remaster. If they're building new assets like they did in Shadow of the Colossus, like they did in Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and like they're doing with Final Fantasy VII.
Parappa the Rapper 2 was technically a remake. They didn't have any of the original assets.
Well, yeah,
technically,
Jared, you're fucking confusing people.
Sorry.
Okay, we got these fucking lambs out here that we need to lead into the barn.
Yeah, I don't understand. Why
if you're
like, oh,
if you're
so
building
confused.
new assets, you know, Shadow of the Colossus, Crash, Final Fantasy VII, that's a fucking remake. It's real simple. Crispier, remaster. New assets, remake. I don't understand
the confusion.
I'm befuddled by those who are befuddled, Jared.
Well, it's even in the titles of them. A remaster, you're remastering the thing that already existed, right?
Right.
A remake, you're making something.
It. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Clearly, Crash fucking Bandicoot isn't just tightened up graphics from the PS1 version, right?
Exactly.
Fucking clearly, Shadow of the Colossus, they didn't just cut out the jackies, you know, like
this isn't an Ezio trilogy thing where it's, you know, oh, we had a game that we had running in 1080p or 720p. Now it's 4K 60. That's what the Kingdom Hearts remasters are. The Kingdom Hearts remasters, right? Yep.
It's real simple, Jared.
The way I look at it is like a remaster is turning up the dial, right? A remake is making a completely new dial.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you fucking go.
Okay, so
if only everyone would just tune into us. We got the fucking knowledge over here.
Speaking of remakes and remasters, you know, Deep Silver's kind of notorious for that. THQ Nordic acquired Deep Silver this week, meaning that they got Saints Row back, which was previously at obviously THQ before it went down. But they didn't purchase Deep Silver specifically. They purchased Koch Media. It's Koch. The punter for the Ravens is Sam Cooke, and it's spelled the same way. I think it's a way to get around them pronouncing it the way it's spelled, which is Koch, which no one wants to be known as Koch Media.
I've actually heard Koch, like the Koch brothers. They're
interesting,
really wealthy, possible global elitists, and it's spelled that way. I've always heard Koch.
I'm familiar with obviously the punter in the NFL, so I'm just gonna go with Cook for that sake. It's Koch if you want to figure out how you want to pronounce it.
You do you, Majin Buu.
Yeah. So they purchased Koch Media for 121 million euro, which is about 149 million dollars. As part of the acquisition, THQ Nordic now has, which was previously Nordic Games, now has Saints Row, which where's that series? Homefront, which did they really get much from that?
Saints Row is, you know, Agents of Mayhem. It's like, why? Fucking why?
Dead Island, which is the funny thing is the one that people, and obviously other properties, the one that people aren't really talking about because Saints Row is the headline, that I think could be the most valuable part of this is Metro. They're underrated shooters. The third one's coming out. It looks phenomenal, Exodus. Saints Row's in a weird position, obviously, with Agents of Mayhem. The first Homefront game didn't do very well. Dead Island, there was supposed to be a second...
The second Homefront game.
Sorry, yeah, the second one, Homefront Revolution. Apologies, yep, you're correct there. Dead Island, there was supposed to be a sequel. There's been a couple of spin-offs. That franchise looks like it's in a weird
that's my biggest question is, what's the deal with Dead Island 2? Because it's been having troubles. More just like getting passed around with developers. Like last I heard it was with Jaeger because Deep Silver had moved it over to them. And that was a game that people were really hyped on when it had that trailer that everybody loved so much. And it's just been so long that they've just, you know, ground that into dust. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Dead Island. Especially, I mean, they remastered the first game and then the Riptide. So, yeah, what's the deal?
Well, and the crazy thing is, like, so Metro, I really believe that if they handle it right, can be huge for that series. I think it can be the breakout for that series. And then also THQ Nordic has Darksiders 3 that's supposedly coming out this year too. That one I'm not too sure about, not because of the quality of the game, but I think on the surface, they're both franchises that haven't gotten the love they maybe deserve for their quality. But a first-person shooter in a post-apocalyptic world is a way easier sell if done right than a Zelda-ish style, weird kind of fantasy aesthetic. Like, I think Metro has a larger chance to succeed than Darksiders does. Darksiders 3, that is. Yeah, it's a very interesting acquisition. People are joking that, like, oh, they're doing exactly what THQ did, and they're going to follow in that same route of falling for bankruptcy. THQ Nordic is also publishing that game with the squirrel, right? Or the, what is it called? Not Escalation. What is it called? Biomutant. Aren't they? I think they're publishing Biomutant as well.
The raccoon.
Think. Yeah.
Biomutant is the...
It's the guys who were previously at Avalanche. Yeah.
Yeah, they're former Avalanche guys. They're not with Avalanche. But needless to say, that also connects into what I was about to mention, is that this is more proof that the AA game space is alive and well. I get so tired of people always talking about, you know, there's AAA games and there's indies. Well, AAA and indies will be single A. The AA games are not as dead as everyone likes to say they are. You've got games like Just Cause 3 and Mad Max that came from Avalanche that were successful. You've got games like, you know, I consider the From Software games more AA titles than AAA. Like Dark Souls is obviously very successful. You have
Gravity Rush 2. I think Nier Automata is AA.
Nier Automata is a great example. Yeah. You have then the ones they're working on, like Biomutant's a great example, and then Saints Row.
That Extinction game. Do you remember that game we saw at E3 of like the dude jumping on the giant orcs? It looked like Attack on Titan but with orcs. Do you remember that? It's called Extinction. It comes out in a couple of months, I think. It looked like Attack on Titan, except it was giant like ogre dudes, and like he chopped off his head.
I'll have to look up some shots of that one, but yeah, I just think that it's not nearly as dead as people make it out to be. Now, when there's good games, they do really well, and when there's, you know, boring or repetitive games like maybe Agents of Mayhem, then it doesn't do so well. So I think, you know, Metro, I think, have proven themselves with the first two entries, and that's a great AA series that I think is going to be really successful with this third one. So don't give me this bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
The AA is totally dead. I don't buy it whatsoever.
So we're going to hop into some Xbox news real quick. There was some rumblings about that there's job listings for Gears of War 5, which I don't think is really news. There's a new Gears of War game in development. The sky is blue.
From the Gears of War factory.
Exactly. This news is pretty interesting, though. So I played the Turok game that was on the 360, and I enjoyed it, but I don't really have any ties to the original Turok or Turok 2. I think it's called Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. But I do like the concept of being in a first-person shooter with dinosaurs. Like, that just sounds awesome.
Sure.
About a month ago, there was a PEGI rating that came out for Xbox One only for a Turok remaster. Once again, a remaster, not a remake, not a remaster. Apologies.
Yeah.
And people are wondering, when is this coming? When are they going to showcase it? This was originally leaked or rumored 2 years ago in 2015. And then now we recently got that PEGI rating in January. And then Xbox went and announced that Turok and Turok 2 are coming to backwards compatibility, which is pretty interesting. Basically, this all leads to the idea that at E3 that we're going to see an announcement of a Turok remake, Turok 1 and 2, coming out exclusively for Xbox. I really hope, just going off of this, I don't really want to gestate on whether it's a truth to it or not. I think it's pretty substantial evidence that it's happening. I think this is a really cool idea for an exclusive, and I really hope that they take the Shadow of the Colossus route, specifically with naming, Jordan. Like, I really hope that they just call it Turok and then Turok 2. I hope it's not Turok remade or some weird thing, because I think it's been so long since those original games that
Turok
people could just
Reborn.
Exactly. People could just see it as a new IP for a lot of people, right? And you could do the trailer so well, like a first-person game where you're hunting dinosaurs with today's graphics and systems and stuff would do super well, especially on Xbox's stage, who has an audience that they cater to that's mostly shooter fans, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a really cool reveal. I wonder when the release date for this would be. I wonder if this might be the fall game for them, and then Crackdown gets pushed again. Hopefully that's not the case. I wonder if they're going to have some sort of mini event where we get the release date for this or the announcement of this along with the announcement of like State of Decay 2's release date
Right.
beforehand. It's very interesting. I think Turok is a very I don't know how to put it. Like, the franchise is not beloved by a lot. There's people who love Turok, don't get me wrong, but it's not like the Resident Evils or like these super classic franchises. Yeah. And I think bringing it out renewed would pay huge dividends, and I don't think they need to rely on its past legacy because I don't think there's a lot there, you know? I think sell this as a new thing. Be like, for those of you who love Turok, here's a brand new Turok game, not we've remade the original game that none of you who play video games nowadays play because you're all under the age of 20, you know? Yeah, so, yeah. I'm interested. I think, like I said, the concept of shooting a Velociraptor with the shotgun is dope.
Sure.
And it plays well with, like, the new Jurassic World movie coming out this year, too, which is awesome. Yeah, I don't think there's pretty much there. We don't really have, either of us have a history with Turok, but it's cool to see some rumblings about Xbox exclusives, since that's usually the talking point for so many people. That and whether or not it's a remake or remaster. The topic
whether
of the
it's
show,
AAA or not.
Exactly. The topic of the show is it's just a kind of an open dialogue I want to have with you if we can kind of figure out what we think these games are. So Ubisoft reportedly has 2 more AAA games coming within the next year. And the reason it states 2 more is that we already know that The Crew 2 is coming out and Skull and Bones, which Skull and Bones to me definitely reads as a flop game. I don't think that game's going to do well at all. I think it's them. Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see. If people are worried about Sea of Thieves, boy howdy be worried about Skull and Bones, because it's a ship combat game, which does well on consoles. But apparently they have 2 more games coming within the next year that are AAA. So my assumption is a big fall title and then their spring title next year. That would be the right assumption, right? I would assume anyways, as far as their releases. What do we think those are, Jordan? Like, we have some ideas. Is this Watch Dogs 3? Is this The Division 2? Is this that long-rumored Splinter Cell game that's been in development? Like, what are we thinking? I mean, also you have to put into account, too, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Jordan, what if this is another Nintendo exclusive that Ubisoft worked on for Nintendo? You know?
Possibly.
Yeah. So I just want to hear from you. What do you think the most likely thing is for? Oh, we also know it's on Assassin's Creed also. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I definitely think that they've got these Tom Clancy properties, and really the only thing you got going right now is Rainbow Six and The Division. So, Splinter Cell. It's like, how is that not? I think the reason why is because they had one right at the tail end of last generation with Blacklist. But even still, it's time, man. I'm so down. Give me that Splinter Cell. I haven't played much of those games, but I love a good stealth shooter, and love the Metal Gear Solid series. So I think that it'd be great. It's a great time for stealth games, and I think Splinter Cell would fit right into that. Besides that, I think Division 2 is a great guess. That game obviously did well enough to warrant a sequel, and it has been long enough. And then the only other thing, besides what you were saying, I don't quite think they have another Nintendo exclusive in the bag quite yet. But I'm thinking a new IP, and I'm thinking it'll probably be along the lines of your Assassin's Creed, your Watch Dogs type deal. But just something that we're not already familiar with, something that feels different enough from those two to where it shouldn't be necessarily a part of either of those franchises. So we could obviously just take shots in the dark all day long, but could be some shit in space, could be some time travel shit, could be some shooting velociraptors with a shotgun type shit. Who knows?
Yeah. So as far as AAA games we know that they're actively working on, they're working on the Avatar game, which isn't coming out anytime soon, much less in the next year. Which I think it's set to release near the second movie, which whenever that's coming out, James Cameron.
Of the upcoming, 5 that they have planned on the books? Like, get out of here.
The other thing that they have actively in development is Beyond Good and Evil 2, which that is another 4 or 5 years out. So those are definitely no's, I would assume, in the next year. Like you said, the Division 2 is very likely. I'm worried, not for the sales of it or anything, but for my own personal sanity. So that game, so Division 2, say that is one of the games that's coming out in the next year. If it comes out in the fall, it has to be early enough, because that's definitely a game that would compete with Red Dead and get tarnished in sales due to Red Dead, I think, personally. Sure. Obviously, there's partially different audiences, but I think they're in the same wheelhouse for the most part. So that would have to come out earlier in the fall in order to not even have to compete with it. But if that's spring next year, then that means it's right there with Anthem. And that's tough, because both of those games are games as services, and people are going to be choosing between those games if they come out within a month of each other. You know what I mean? Those two games, if any, will be competing. And I don't know who would win that battle. Obviously, BioWare doesn't have the same weight its name carries anymore, but it is EA, so they have marketing on their side. Ubisoft has marketing too, and the Division already has a legacy built in of people actually liking the game. So I don't want those games to release near each other, so that's kind of what I'm worried about. So it's like, where does Division 2 fit in? You know what I mean? Do they want to compete with Red Dead, or do they want to compete with Anthem? That's kind of tough. But I am excited, like I said, for Division 2. Watch Dogs 3 is an interesting one. I don't know how the sales numbers did. I know it didn't do like crazy numbers, but I don't think it did necessarily bad. This quick of a turnaround time for Watch Dogs 3 would be kind of weird. If I was a betting man, I would assume one is Division 2 and one is a Splinter Cell, just because we've heard about that Splinter Cell game for so long. It would be surprising if we went another year with that one. Right. There's other games they can release within the year, but specifically because we're thinking AAA, we're not including the likes of a Rabbids game or a Trials game, which I would love for a Trials game, but that's not AAA. A new Rayman game wouldn't be AAA. A new Just Dance game, unless they consider that AAA, that releases every year. It really upsets me too. Talking about. Yeah, exactly. It's really upsetting too that they have no mention of UbiArts games. Which, what happened to those?
It's dead. They just took it out back and fucking shot that.
I'm with you though. Division 2 I think is probably the most likely. It's the other one that's weird. Of like, Watch Dogs 3. Does that make sense this quick? What was the other thing? We know it's not Assassin's Creed. So that, we assume it's not Assassin's Creed. They said Origins did so well that we shouldn't expect. They're very vague, but the way they made it sound is like, yeah, we're not getting an Assassin's Creed this year. Or at least a mainline one.
I think they've shifted Assassin's Creed over to the Far Cry model, which is every 2 years.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, is there any Ubisoft property we're missing? Because obviously Far Cry is coming out. I'm just thinking of big Ubisoft titles that we're missing that we could possibly see.
You know what I'm about to say, Jared? Motherfucking Prince of Persia. I need it. I want it. So I gotta have it.
A new Prince of Persia would definitely have the time mechanics, because that's what makes Prince of Persia Prince of Persia. But do you think it would completely ditch the climbing aspects? Do you think they want to? Because if they're remaking it, they'd want to differentiate it from Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
There's a lot of things you could do to differentiate. I'm personally a fan of the reboot where it was kind of cell shaded and you couldn't die. I still thought that game had a lot of cool stuff to it. And I like the Forgotten Sands, which was kind of 1.5 in the Sands of Time trilogy. So yeah, I think there's just so much cool stuff that you've got there. Maybe they're worried about the brand because of the way the movie went down. But
Jake Gyllenhaal,
it's time. It is time to bring that shit back.
I think the biggest mistake they can make is making it open world. For me, the way a Prince of Persia game would hook me is because with the time mechanic, I see it in my weird mind. I see it more as like a puzzle game of you figuring out how to get through these situations, right? Using the mechanics. I would love to see it more of a Tomb Raider kind of situation where they're bigger areas. It's not necessarily open world, but you have these areas you can explore and figure out things, right? I think hitting open world definitely screams this is like Assassin's Creed, but not, on the surface of surface level looking at it, which is dumb, but people do that as consumers. I would be interested in new Prince of Persia. I'm not completely off put by that idea. I'm just interested to see how they would set it apart and make it unique. The other thing that you brought up too is a new IP. We didn't know about Division. That's a new IP. We didn't know about Watch Dogs. Ubisoft is pretty good at every couple of years giving us a brand new IP. So maybe it is a new IP. Maybe it's Division 2 and something we don't even know about.
Well, Division is technically a new IP, but it is a Tom Clancy IP,
exactly.
So
yeah,
they could just dig into their Tom Clancy bag, which is enormous, and pull something out of there.
What's the last sci-fi game that Ubisoft did? I'm trying to think. Do they do sci-fi? Well, like obviously Assassin's Creed is loosely sci-fi with a lot of the stuff.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's loosely sci-fi. I'd say it's a total sci-fi game.
Yeah, I'm talking about like but for me when I'm talking about like a sci-fi genre, you think more space or like
technology and shit. But technically, you are.
Oh yeah, it's definitely sci-fi.
The genetic memories from the future. So,
yeah.
But anyways,
I can't think of a pure sci-fi game for Ubisoft. Maybe that's what they dip into. We've heard about
another cool thing would be is if they just really dove into an RPG. I know a lot of people talked about Origins having a lot more RPG elements, but from my perspective, which is of someone who's been playing every Assassin's Creed mainline game as they've come out over the years, Assassin's Creed has been slowly dipping its toe into the RPG water, and of course they're closer than they've ever been, but I'm just like, fucking make it an RPG. It would be awesome. And so if they're not going to do it with Assassin's Creed, go full bore with that. I would like to see them do it, maybe with a different franchise.
Now that you say that, like a full-fledged hardcore RPG from Ubisoft?
Yeah, like a BioWare style Mass Effect type deal.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in that because like as much shit as people give Ubisoft for like, it's a Ubisoft game because there's towers and icons everywhere. I mean, but like I don't know. For me, I think Ubisoft does a really good job of giving you value for your $60 a lot of the time, which I appreciate. Of like, people complain about like.
Also, I think the reason people complain about all those icons on the map and like Unity especially was bad because you unlock the map once you get into the open world and it is literally covered.
Oh god.
The thing that I think people are complaining about is that so much of it is just filler. It's just flat. It's just there to pad out the game so you feel like you got your $60, whereas something like The Witcher, it's dense and thick. It has a lot of value to each one of those points on the map. So
yeah, but I mean there again too, the opposite, the pros and cons is that for a game like Witcher 3 you have to wait a substantial amount of time for that to come out, which is great when you're able to play it and sit down with it, whereas you have a Ubisoft game like that every year, so it's kind of like you can have both, right? You can have that Witcher 3 game that you play every 5 years that's like a meaty game, and then it's like in between it's like I just want to mess around.
I'm okay with Far Cry not being the deepest shit that I play all year.
We need that polarity because
good old fashioned fun.
Exactly. That's it for the news and our topic of what we expect. We didn't really land on an answer. I think we both agree like Division 2 and something else probably. It's hard with Ubisoft because they're in a position now where they put out so many games that it's hard to figure out what exactly their plan is.
Right.
But yeah, I'd be interested to see a fully fledged hardcore RPG. That'd be dope. With the way Ubisoft works, they have a million teams, so they can put a lot of hard work into it. I guess that's pretty much it for episode 88. Let's talk about what we're going to be playing and all that good stuff. Monster Hunter World as usual. Celeste, like I said, I'm 3 hours in. I think the game's only 5 hours long. Excuse me. I definitely want it to be a game that I finish this week. Those are my two priorities. Obviously, Wolfenstein 2 is there, and then I talked about Subnautica last week. I don't know if you've heard about this game, Jordan.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I told Dom that I wouldn't play it until I beat one of the three games I have, meaning Monster Hunter World, which isn't happening anytime soon, Celeste, or Wolfenstein, right? Kind of just like to temper myself, because like I'm enjoying all the games, but I don't want to put too much on my plate and then something gets lost in the way, because I actually am enjoying these games and loving playing them. So I haven't played it yet. I did purchase it, which I just, like purchased it, gave me the rush that I needed. So I'm still trying to finish one of these games so I can play it. I need to watch Altered Carbon. I need to watch The Ritual. And like I said, Lady Bird as well. and Cloverfield Paradox. Cloverfield Paradox is definitely on the top, I would say number 1 on my list, and I know there's mixed reviews and some people hate it and some people really liked it, but I really enjoy the Cloverfield universe, and I'm going to watch it no matter what. It could have been an over astounding, this movie's awful, has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I still would watch it, just because I have so much love for that universe, and there's issues, and I know all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, that's on my list there too. There's nothing new that comes out this week as far as Netflix and stuff. There's obviously Black Panther, which we're both watching this weekend. Super excited. Highest Rotten Tomato score for an MCU movie. It's basically guessed to open box office with $170 million, which is awesome. Not getting too political or anything, but I think it's great that we're finally in this modern era of superhero movies, that we're getting a African-American superhero that's probably going to have a franchise moving forward. I think it's super cool. Being a white kid growing up, you don't really notice that stuff, and it's like, oh, it's not that big of an issue. But having friends who are African-American and having people I know that have kids that are African-American, for them to look up to a superhero as badass as Black Panther. He's cool. Like, he's just a cool superhero, and it's cool for them to have an icon, so I think that's really dope, and I'm excited to see Black Panther, especially with Kendrick's soundtrack. Beautiful.
Hell yes.
Yeah. What about you?
Is Black Panther an African American hero or just an African hero?
I would say African, but coming from the perspective of people in the United States going to watch the movie, I'm saying he represents African Americans.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
But obviously, he technically represents African people as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where I was coming with that. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to what you just mentioned, the Kendrick Lamar soundtrack. He basically curated the soundtrack for Black Panther and then featured himself on the songs with the artist that he brought in for, I think, 5 of the songs on there. So that's very cool that they did it that way, that they decided to bring use that approach, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm very excited about that, going to see that here in a few hours. And then I'm assuming that I'm going to end up playing some games this week. I think I might jump back into Neo, because I don't want to get too far away from that game, because obviously I've mentioned how hard it is to kind of go back into that game. Usually any game, even if it is a deep RPG, I can jump back in, and usually the first time I jump back in, I give myself kind of a refreshment session where
get rid of your sea legs. Yeah.
Yeah, just like remember all the different menu options, or how attacking works, the button combinations, whatever it may be. But Neo's much harder to do that with because of how fucking complicated that game is. So I need to get back to that before I fucking forget everything again. But anyways, probably that. I went ahead and pulled down the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 out of my library on PS4. Because you know what, Jared? I fucking had the conversation with Dom when he was on the show, a couple weeks ago or whatever. Like, I'm not believing this fucking hype that it's coming out this year, because Nomura said last year it's years away.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, D23 Japan rolls around, and people have just gotten in my fucking brain, and now I'm thinking it might be happening. So I don't know. I still don't actually believe in the depths of my soul that it is coming out this year, but regardless, it is probably about time to start playing them, because there are so many fucking games that if I want to actually go back through the series before the third one comes out, I'm going to need to start give myself some leeway. So
if you're somebody who only plays Square Enix games, you must have a lot of trust issues in your life, you know, because Jesus.
Yeah, that would suck. Okay, also wrong, real quick,
it's 14 years since Kingdom Hearts 2, right? Is that right?
I think you're probably about right. About right there.
Yeah.
Practically 14 years since the Kingdom Hearts 3 reveal trailer, for God's sake.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
But anyways. Well, I was just going to say, back to the whole AAA, AA discussion, Japan is your biggest supplier of AA games, because really Square Enix is the only AAA developer coming out of Japan with games like Final Fantasy. Then, Capcom will have a Resident Evil. But other than that, all your Tales games, your Xenoblade Chronicles games, those are AA games. Most of them, don't have fully voice acted dialogue, and they've got really, I think I consider Monster Hunter to be a AA game. I know it's sold really well, but you know, the lip syncing is terrible, and a lot of the textures aren't quite up to AAA standards, even on a PS4 Pro, and a lot of the dialogue isn't actually voice acted. So yeah, there's just those production values. That's what I consider to be AAA, not how many people are at your studio, because fucking Rocksteady's making AAA games with 150 people, you know, where most AAA studios are bigger than that. But it doesn't matter, because they have the production value to make Arkham Knight a AAA game, whereas, you know, Monster Hunter, where they can't match the lips, or the Souls series from Software, where they don't even have lips move. It's like, that's production value that is missing in order to make it a AAA game. So Japan is another huge you know, feather in my cap for my my argument
Double A Hill,
double A games. Exactly. So don't be coming at me with that double A's gone bullshit.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening to episode 88 of the Controlled Interest Gamecast. Next week we should have Ian on, and we should have Dom back. Hopefully we'll have a 4-man crew next week. Thank you guys for listening and or watching wherever you intake us. If you can, please subscribe to us on YouTube. It definitely helps us. Even if you don't watch the video format, please just go and subscribe. It helps us out. Speaking of YouTube, the first episode of our new Look Back At series, where they're 20 to 30 minute conversations about older games, came out last week. Yeah, last week it came out. The first episode features Dom and Jordan talking about Batman Arkham City, so definitely check that out. They talk about all the goodness of the Arkham series as it relates to Arkham City. And if you can, please follow us and review us on iTunes. It definitely helps as well. It's pretty much it. I'm probably going to be putting up like an Monster Hunter impressions video with B-roll and stuff sometime either this weekend or early next week as well. So look out for that as well. I was gathering B-roll today. I made sure to wear the beginning game gear, Jordan, because people are so spoilers in Monster Hunter relate to, I guess, armor and stuff, and I just don't even want to deal with people complaining about it. So I'm just like, I'm gonna go base armor and just chill. Also, shout out to Poogie, the little pet pig in Astera, one of the cutest things in video games. Gotta go pet that boy. Some people name him Bacon, which I think is cruel as heck. That's pretty much it. We'll catch you guys next week with episode 89, and hopefully we get some big substantial news. We haven't gotten like a big meaty news story in probably like 3 weeks, I would say, right? 2 or 3 weeks. There's been like some good news, but nothing like, oh my god, that happened. Definitely tune in, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.